Here.
LaCroy,
Here.
Masco,
Here.
Northern.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I make. Second.
Masco,
Aye.
Mac,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Northern,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Okay, next is public comments. We have anybody signed up, David?
No sign. Public comments.
And board reports.
I just say that I was able to attend one of the graduations, and the staff and administration did a great job putting it together for our 8th graders, and I saw some pictures of the other one, so it looked pretty good also. So I want to say I appreciate that.
Did a good job.
Very nice.
Rattled right through that.
Very nice.
Anyone else? Okay, Ellen?
Just want to thank Preferred and Arbor tonight for both getting the food prepared and giving us an opportunity to do a taste test, so thank you very much. Yesterday was our last day of school that was an entire day, and it was a little bit interesting to go around to the buildings and teachers haven't been used to doing that, and so instead of leaving after a couple hours, they were there for a full day. So I think next year maybe they'll plan a little differently, but I think it went well. Paul and I were both over at Frederick at Point. They did some all building assemblies, so that went well. And so it was an interesting day. And then I'd like to show you what Leslie has done for our diversity brochures. She's done a large one here. And then she has done some, I'll pass these around, some other ones, and even made a trifold, which I'd like to have out in the community, as well as take a look and see what you think. Thank you, Leslie, very much for, that's a great job. And then we'll have this will be room enough for us to have people sign, so. And that's all I have.
Okay. All right, next is a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Any questions for the consent agenda discussing? Okay.
Northern,
Aye.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Masco,
Aye.
Mac,
Aye.
Weedman.
Aye. Okay, next is action items. These are items that will be voted on by the board at this meeting. The only action item we have tonight is a motion to approve the wireless technology project. I have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Joe, do you want to give us a little explanation?
Oh, no, you're fine. So the wireless technology project is the fourth part in our four-part plan. So the first part, 4 years ago, we bought core routers to rebuild the network. We bought 7 core routers, 1 per each building. Those were the Cisco 3850s. Then in the following year, we bought what's called edge routers, and there were 26 of those, and those were the Cisco 3650s. And in the third year, we bought the edge switches, which were Netgear, and we bought 110 of those. And this year, in the final year, we're looking to purchase 500 wireless units to blanket the entire district. So we went out to bid, and this is all done through E-rate. So we have to file our 470 application to the E-rate for the Universal Service Fund. which will give us 50% of the cost of the wireless network if we purchase within 5 years. So we're, I believe, in the fourth year of that. So if we make this purchase, which the bids, we got 14 bids back, and we didn't go with the lowest bid, which was TP-Link, because it was a consumer-grade wireless unit. So we went with the second lowest bid, which was an enterprise wireless system from Mojo Networks. So for 500 of those units, it came in at $134, and then because we'll get 50% back from E-Rate, the wireless network will cost us around $70.
And what did you originally
We
anticipate?
originally set aside, or had asked Chris to set aside $500,000, because we were looking at other school districts that were doing their wireless networks. And I know the high school has already been through several iterations of networks. And when we were looking at this 4 years ago, that was the going rate. And some of the bids that came back, some of the highest bids were above $300,000. So the price of that has really come down, and I think we saw the sweet spot on this. So this is the latest, greatest wireless system that all the other school districts have. It's called 802.11 AC Wireless Wave 2, and these units meet that.
Yeah, we got that. It's the best, though.
What type of lifespan are we looking at for those?
We're looking at a 5-year lifespan on those. However, if the company goes out of business, or if we choose not to renew at the end of the 5 years, the wireless equipment will continue to work. We just won't be able to upgrade it or modify the settings. So once we're dialed in, and we'll be dialed in the first year, we'll ride that out, and the settings will stay the same anyways.
So does that type of savings occur again, or is it a one-time thing?
It's a one-time purchase. We're gonna purchase this network, and then we should be good for 5 years.
But then would you be eligible for that savings again, then the next, if you had to upgrade?
No, the Universal Service Fund offered, I believe it was about $250 per student for a 5-year span.
Just for the 5 years?
Correct. And so when we
One time.
started to rebuild our network, the very first year, we weren't eligible because the program didn't exist, so we bought those core routers. The very next year, when we bought the edge routers, we were eligible for that, so they took that from that $200 per student fund and applied that, and then our switches were applied to that, and then now our wireless network. So once we spend those funds down, they're no longer available, and then the program would end in 5 years anyways.
And how much more of the funds do we have left?
We're pretty much towards the end. I can get those numbers for you from our E-Ray consultant.
I'm just wondering if there's something else that is eligible for purchase under that.
There might be next year, which would be the last year of the program. So once we spend this down, I'll get figures.
Chris is holding his breath over there because I said spend money, but.
So there
Because it's so much,
Well,
probably
you know,
is some money on the table, but not that much.
Right,
because-
I mean, I'd rather use up what we can if we can get, extra, laptops or iPads or whatever. I don't know what qualifies. There's something in there that can
Anything
qualify.
for connectivity for school districts, so any kind of networking
Okay.
gear. So I don't think laptops would apply, but any kind of network cables and cords or switches or stuff of that nature.
I mean, if they're giving you 50 cents on the dollar for whatever you spend.
Correct, because our free and reduced lunch makes us eligible for 50%.
I'd rather take advantage of it while we can instead of missing the year.
Okay.
This is something that is part of the E-rate program.
That's correct.
And the E-rate program, what it used to do for us is it used to reimburse us for our telephone service, a certain dollar amount.
Correct, and it no longer reimburses for telephone, but it does for telecommunications, so our connection to the internet, they reimburse us for that at 50%.
So this program might be over the next, begin the new program going in a different direction as well. It just shifts with the times.
Sure.
Hopefully they'll keep something.
Right, but if we have still an extra year in there that we can,
Yeah, and
Make a
there
big savings.
could be a small amount of money left
right.
after this. And I'll get those figures from our E-Ray consultant, and then I can bring it back to the board and present it.
Everyone okay with that?
thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. All right, any other questions or concern with that? Okay, we can go ahead and vote.
And what we just talked about, will that all, everything will be in place September when school starts?
Yes, yes, they're gonna be busy, very, very busy this summer, but yes, they have a plan for it to all be ready by the summer, or by the start of school.
Okay.
Mhm.
Weedman,
Yes.
Mesco,
Aye.
Knapp,
Aye.
LaCroy.
Aye.
Okay, next is unfinished business. These are unresolved issues that were previously brought before the board. The items will be discussed, but no action will be taken tonight. The first one is discussion of the food service.
Once again, thank you to Preferred Meals, and thank you to Arbor Management for coming out and, upon the request of the district, for a taste test. We appreciate everything that you did. In terms of food service, where we left off last time, we had gone through kind of the positives, the pros and cons of each of the programs. This year, we selected to do a bid with an alternate bid, a vended meal, which is a prepackaged meal that we currently have, and then we also asked for a service that was cooked on site and then satellited to buildings. At the end of the last meeting, based on all the information, nothing in either of the bids would necessarily affect us financially. There are some differences in it. We would have to, for the food that's cooked on site, there's some equipment that we'd need to purchase, and we'd probably need to purchase relatively quickly. We would do that through financing. We would do that over a 5-year period. We could finance it, and still, those costs would go against any of the revenues that we made in during the program, the National School Lunch Program. Tonight, there was the request to have the taste test to see what the food is like, and once again, thank you. The results are tallied, I believe. This is the tally over here that you were handing me.
Is this a drum roll now?
This is like the Oscars, eh? Okay, the results of the taste test are that Arbor came in with the food that, that was selected more times as the preferred food. I know that's something that the board was looking at the last meeting due to the request. What we'd like to have happen at this board meeting is, because there is still a process that we have to go through to go ahead and get the bid accepted by the state. What we have to do, we have to do a pre-contract award where we would give a recommendation to the state. They would turn around in 15 days, probably less than that, probably more like 10 days, say that it's okay for the district to vote on it, and at the next board meeting, we would take that vote, and then we would go ahead and have something in place for the next school year. So at this point in time, we're at that point where there needs to be a selection of which provider we would like for our food service for the next school year and potentially the next 5 school years.
Technically can't vote on it, but we could
We
hear
cannot vote on it until the
responses.
next board meeting.
Right. So that,
But we do have to send something down to the state with our recommendation prior to that. So we need to look for which direction the board wants to go in terms of satellite or the vended.
Refresh us on the cost to the student. I know you said to the district, it's about neutral.
It would come up being neutral, basically neutral. Arbor would be a little bit less even with the financing, but the cost to the student would be the same. We're looking at $2.90 per meal, which is the recommendation of the state for what the lowest amount can be. That just came through. And also would be $1.70 for the breakfast meals.
So there's really no change for them.
no.
I think it's a 10 cents difference
But
in
I
the
mean,
change, but that's,
between the two vendors, there's no difference in the cost to the students.
does anybody have any?
Were there any comments collected in the board, or just?
It was just a straight vote. It basically just said, you know, please select the vendor whose food you like the best.
You talk to the people who work in the kitchens or whatever, they have any preference?
Well, the people that work in the kitchens
Their
represent
employees.
their employees of preferred.
Okay, so none of our people actually have any contact?
Well, our people, we had board members that tasted, we had,
No, I mean during the school year.
Right, they're not the school district's employees, they're the meal provider's employees.
So the whole operation is totally independent of the school?
yes, yes.
I mean, I found both foods to be very well prepared and good for the taste test this evening. What I'm always interested in is, you know, it's prepared and presented here this evening, you know, what does that carry over into what it's going to appear to the students? Because they're gonna have significantly different, you know, opinions probably than me as an adult. And some of the food looked very, you know, fancy tonight, which may not translate into.
The assumption that was made at the last meeting was that perhaps the food wouldn't be necessarily exactly what would be served, but it would be a representation of the
what food
company.
be served.
Yes.
I believe, Jim, you looked at the menu, right? Or one
Yeah,
of them.
I looked at them, well, they gave me the main menu for the current school year, and then Arbor had like basically it's like a 12-month menu. There seemed to be a little more choices with the Arbor one. They offered a couple of meals a day, versus what looks like was offered on the menu that I saw from Preferred Meals. Looking at the food, I saw food that my kids would probably eat a little bit more readily through Arbor. I like the idea of it being prepared in our district and then sent out instead of being, I guess, more
Frozen food.
prepackaged meals. I think that's probably better for the kids, and they're more likely to eat it, and it's not cold or soggy or something along those lines. It's tough either way. I tried to think like my kids, what they would eat, and I liked Arbor.
I like the fresh vegetables and fresh fruit choices. And it seemed to be a bold, but that was good.
These year-to-year contracts that we enter into?
Basically, yes, you enter into a contract, it's a year-to-year contract that can be extended up to 4 times. So you can have up to 5 years with the same company before you have to go out to bid again. But yeah, each year would be a renewal period, so there could be a bid every year.
I know my direction that I'm leaning towards is trying to move down the path with Arbor. I think my kids and some of their friends aren't terribly excited about the school lunches that they've received this past year, and I think the quality was seemed to be a little bit better from the Arbor side. That's the path I'd like to see it go.
Stephen, any opinion one way?
I would support Arbor as well, because I think we have 2 children going into the school lunch plan, I believe, and my oldest will likely not be affected either way just because of needs and preparation of the food, but the freshness choice factor was key.
And the idea is to get them to eat it. You know, if they're buying $2.90 worth of a lunch and $2.75 of it is ending up in the round barrel, that doesn't do them any good, and it's kind of a waste of everybody's money and time. Not only the vendor's time, but the parents' money and, you know, our prep and everything else that goes along with it. I know when I talk to my kid, my youngest one, who's over at Frederick, he's like, yeah, sometimes I get the meal and I give half of it away and I eat the little bits. He's a growing child. He should be eating his lunch, you know. I want the kids to be able to want food that's out there and eat it. And I think the freshness has a big deal in it.
And there ain't no free lunch. Teach them that too.
Yeah. My preference would be to go with Arbor.
I'll go with what
You
consensus
weren't-
is
you
here.
weren't-
David's vote was for Arbors.
All right.
Do you have enough to go with a direction, and we'll vote on it next meeting?
You asked for the direction, I have to send that recommendation down to the state. I'll send it down to the state, they'll give us an approval for a vote, an action vote, and then we'll,
Okay, and you have a list of all the equipment that you need?
Yes.
that I do.
I was talking with Keith earlier about some of the equipment that, you know, like there's deep fryers in this kitchen over here.
Things that we can sell.
then we can sell, make some of the offsets, so.
They can go into my kitchen?
No,
In your
if you
kitchen?
if you deep fry in your kitchen, you won't be here long.
He's gonna deep fry the donuts.
Okay. Any other discussion regarding that? No? Okay. Next is update on the solar panel project.
We got a note back from the mayor of Painesville that gave us some steps that we needed to follow. So we will be following up with him and looking to do some permits and that type of thing, but obviously we have to wait until we get some more information back from our solar panel company. We also met with Catherine Finger and Mike Zelik from 127 and just asked them, if you were going to do this project again, what pitfalls would you try to avoid and what worked well? And so they gave us a lot of good tips that I think will help and offered to help any way they could. So that was good too. So those would be, we're just going to be meeting with Kurt again, I guess, as soon as he gets back to us with some more figures and then continue to move forward.
Ellen, I'm glad to hear that, we're asking 127 what their experience was, and it sounds like we can move a little bit deliberately on this, because I think the last thing I'd like to see is for the school district to be in the energy generation business. And I don't have a comfort level yet with how this happens after, I forget the name of the credit program expires.
SREX,
That's it.
yeah.
Thank you. And then after our engagement with the company terminates, are we then in the energy generation business? So it sounds like we have a little bit of time to really flesh this out and do our due diligence. So I just wanted to say that.
Catherine and Mike offered to come and talk to the board. Catherine will be gone, but Mike said he would be glad to come over and just talk about what the steps were and all that kind of information. So if you'd like us to do that,
I would
Okay.
like that, yeah.
I think that would be helpful to hear their experience.
Yes,
I think you and I saw
Well,
part
we
of
saw
it,
part
yeah.
of that experience at their presentation at
Right.
CLC, which was fascinating.
Mhm.
And clearly, I think probably even shocked them, the value that they were getting for it. But it would be interesting to hear
Okay. I'll
and
make
be
sure-
able to pose
Okay,
yeah.
I'll see when he's available, so we can come.
Yeah, to kind of go with your point, I don't really want to be in the energy business, but I'm also trying to look at for other alternative revenue for the school district so that we're not, so we can do other things that we want to try and do for the district. And this gives us an opportunity to bring in extra revenue without a whole lot of outlay and costs. I think it would be kind of dumb not to go in that direction, provided we can make it work.
Yeah, it seems really promising, and that's almost part of the reason why the alarm bells are going off. It's
Yeah.
almost too good to be
Right,
true, right?
right,
Like,
right.
what are we not thinking of?
Right.
And I don't want to be sold a monorail,
Right.
right?
You don't want to sing?
Monorail, I don't want a monorail.
Okay. Any other discussion on that?
Nope, well, I'll try to get him, see when he can come over and
Okay.
one of our board meetings, and we'll go from there.
All right, next is new business. First one was supposed to be a review of the CPS vision statement and beliefs. I think this is a little like brochure that they put together. Kathleen had asked for us to go over it, but she is not here tonight. So it's up to you if you want to go through it. My comments is it's nice, we've already done a lot of that work. To put it into a document form wouldn't hurt us any.
No, we can do that.
Share.
That's what I did, was go through each of the pages, and, some things, obviously. we
Some
would
things wouldn't
include.
apply.
Right. So, I mean, if that is something that the board would like us to do, we can certainly do that. It wouldn't be this many pages. I can
Right.
guarantee that.
Right, like the stuff that, who are we by the numbers and graduate rate on tracks, some of you're not gonna get the ACT scores because none of us take it. But, some of those things are,
We can
I
take
think they're, probably valuable for the citizens to understand what we're doing.
And we can work, I know Leslie will help me do this. I'll put some of these pieces together and then bring it
Jumping
back
up and
and
down for joy.
take a look at it, and, it's not gonna be done next week, but we can take a look at it if everybody would like us to try to.
I think that would help in outreach too, especially some of the things we might be planning for the diversity committee. I think it would certainly be a tool to see where we stand.
Yeah.
And some
Where we
of
could
the,
go.
even some of the diversity stuff can go into it too.
Well, precisely, yeah, for sure.
It's always interesting that when you talk about bullying and whatever, you've got things that you intolerance you don't want, and you don't want disrespect. It also says we don't want fear. I had never seen that aspect before. Fear is what happens when people don't tolerate you, and that's an interesting message to say to kids, fear is not acceptable either. So we want to deal with that. Interesting. Maybe it's always been there, I've never seen it, I don't know.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Next would be the discussion of technology purchase at Park Campus.
So they would like to buy some Chromebooks out of their campus building funds. There's 35 that they were looking at. And if you think about it, this is that they're almost their 10th year of being open. And so the equipment that they purchased when they opened, it's getting old. Wouldn't you say, Joe, things are?
The building equipment itself, so what we bought with furnitures, fixtures, and equipment when they opened the building, that's all now obsolete equipment, so Apple's not repairing it anymore.
Okay. And you said they're looking for 35?
Yep, 35, and the cost is $9,911. I know that's pretty darn close to 10,000, but it did happen that way. It wasn't like we made that up. And you can also see that the price is going down on their,
And those Chromebooks are the new style that flip all the way back and turn into tablets, and then the screens are touch. So as the price stays around $250 to $260, there's a $30 Google management fee on that, but the technology keeps getting better and better and better, because the older Chromebooks were simple laptops, but now they're starting to build all these features in for the same price.
Joe, 35 units is what percent of the total population you'll need to replace?
At Park Campus, off the top of my head, I'm pulling a blank. I would have to come back to you with that number at Park Campus.
It's not 100%.
No,
It's not
it's
insignificant, right?
that would be just a classroom set. So we go with 35 because sometimes they have more than 30 students, and then we also want some for hot spares. So if a Chromebook dies, we give them a new one. We take it back and then send it out for repair. And it comes back within a couple of days, but students aren't inconvenienced at all.
If you were to guess how many Chromebooks you have in the at Park?
Well, we have about 700 district-wide, so at Park Campus, I'm gonna guess, he's bought, 1, 2, 3, let's say about 160?
It was about a third or a fifth, sorry. My math skills. I got them here at GMS. Sorry.
No.
Okay, okay to move that forward for next meeting? Okay. All right, we're all the way up to topics for future agenda.
so we have park technology. Presentation on our year-long work with our planning and design team. So we've had several planning and design teams this year. Instead of what we have done in the past by having each team come in and present, Paul and Amanda will be doing sort of a synopsis of each of the work from each of the PDTs and give some recommendations to the board. Yeah, and then have our food service vote. What else do we have? Oh, yes, the fitness assessment. Yeah, we have to provide you with the results of our
I hope you're not giving me
fitness.
a physical.
Well, maybe we'll have a little,
We could all participate, we could do, like, show you what the kids do, and then you guys could participate.
so this
Oh.
week was food tasting, next time,
Tasting
Burn it off.
yeah.
There's some running, there's some push-ups, there's some sit-ups, and there's a sit and reach.
Not a problem.
Our waste disposal bid, or not bid, our waste disposal contract will come up in August. We did put an extension into that, but we'll have to talk about that. We'll have to talk about, first discussion about online registration, possibly.
We want to talk about the food service POS.
I wouldn't think that we would have a POS system in place before 2018. We're not gonna wanna start the new year out with it. I
Why?
think that'll just be, one, it's too short, two, I don't know what the transition's gonna be like between who's actually working and who the new people might be. I don't know what type of training they would need. I'd rather just stay with the system that we currently have and then probably make a switch mid-year. That way they can get some training possibly over winter break.
At least we could discuss it.
We could discuss it, that's, yeah, but
Yeah, we see
there
what
was
our
also,
options
I talked to a couple of vendors as well, and they didn't suggest jumping right into it. They've said, you know what, mid-year is one of the better times to do it.
We have committee meeting coming up,
First look at policies.
committee meeting coming up for that.
Yes, we do, next Thursday.
These are booking me solid.
Anything else anybody would like on the agenda?
All right, back up to public comments. You don't want to say anything? No? Want to yell at the board member sitting all the way to the right?
David's gone.
Okay, and I think we do need a closed
We
session.
do, you have
Yes.
to thank hold.
So we will be going into closed session for Open Meetings Act 5, ILCS 122, and all the other ones that were in there, 1, 11, and 2. They covered them all, and 5.
I move we go into closed session.
Second.
LaCroy,
Aye.
Masco,
Aye.
Knapp,
Aye.
Weedman,
Aye.
Jordan. Oh, I'm sorry.
Absent. Or